Hi, I'm Ben. Let's go for a walk. So, welcome to the Pronghorn Reserve Natural Area. I think this is Aurora, Colorado. It might be Denver. I'm not 100% sure. Either way, nice little spot close to town. Pretty easy to swing out here in the afternoons and just get a little walk in. This barely counts as a hike. Speaking of hikes, the name of my channel is probably Long Hike Short Cliff. Not because I'm gonna go falling off of any cliffs, I hope, but just because that's kind of my mentality with hiking. I want to see how hard I can push myself, and I guess I just felt like I could give YouTube a go again. So the general idea of this channel, I'm not going to do much editing to videos at all. It sucks the fun out of life, so I'm just going to take video as I go, and we're going to take a walk together and talk and, maybe tell some stories. So today, in between little talks about what I hope to accomplish with this channel and why I'm doing this now, I'm going to tell you a story about why my first attempt at a YouTube channel failed. Alright, we're getting up to the windmill. I made a slight miscalculation. It's like 15 degrees here, give or take. And I did not bring gloves that are camera friendly. So, gonna get up to that windmill and we'll do a little more talking as we look out around at the Pronghorn Natural Area. It is definitely not the most scenic trail in the world. It does have the windmill, which, pretty cool. There is a creek up here, which pretty frequently washes out the trail entirely, which is always fun to get back here. Something I don't like about it, people don't really care what their dogs do on this trail. But on the plus side, there are definitely deer out here. There are all kinds of birds. It is a pretty nice little, if it weren't for the airplanes heading up to the airport, because where else do airplanes go? You really wouldn't know that this is maybe 10 minutes from neighborhoods. So that's why I tolerate this trail, I'll put it that way. A lot of negatives. The whole trail does turn into mud at the slightest opportunity to do so. And like I said, the people not cleaning up after their pets, and that creek up there. Let's go see what that creek's up to, and then kind of go more into why I'm doing this. Okay, well, here comes that creek. Clearly not going to be any issues today, except maybe that pile of mud there. So, what am I doing with a YouTube channel? Well, this is not my first attempt at one. I tried one back in 2021, and it was not for the right reasons. I saw hiking content creators that just hundreds of thousands of subscribers watching them hike, and I'm like, what? What? And then I tried to do my own channel, which I taped a bunch of tech content for and never used because it was going to be a month till I could get up to Georgia to hit the Appalachians. And I was in Florida, which is like the worst place on earth to try and hike. Anything remotely hikeable is also covered in water and snakes and yeah, stuff I don't mind, but stuff I don't want to step on. So I figured, you know, while I wait for my trip up to Georgia, by the way, it's really cold here. Figured while I wait for that trip up to Georgia, I lived in Duluth, Minnesota for a year, and I got all kinds of videos of the huge Laker freighters coming in, and they would salute with their horns when they came in. So some of those guys out there, like Vibe with Mike, Jonathan Ellsworth, definitely Show Me the Boats. Paul Sinoka is an awesome guy. They had tens of thousands, if not, you know, over 100,000 subscribers. And I was like, well, hey, maybe if I throw some pictures of boats up there or some videos of boats, I'll get, you know, a few views and a few subscribers here and there, so that when I come back with videos from Atlanta, I will have a tiny little bunch of people with ready to invade YouTube feeds. So the first thing I posted was a video of a very famous ship that is very famous for its horns, called the James R. Barker, coming out of Duluth. And it pumped out an amazing salute, and it was a great video. Great little short. But it kind of didn't work the way I wanted. It got me over 200,000 views and about 700 subscribers off of that one video. And at that point, when I did try to post old hiking content just to keep the channel alive until I could work on the footage from Georgia, the view counts made it really apparent that YouTube had decided that my channel was a transportation channel. And that was kind of the end of that for me. I just threw whatever I had left up on it. Most of the old Georgia footage never saw the light of day. And I kind of gave up and walked away because, like, I live in Florida. I can't go back up to Georgia to hike and get content anytime I want. So that's the story of mid-hike crisis and why that no longer exists. So what's different this time? Well, this time, like I said, not going to be editing this much, so when I use colorful metaphors, they're probably just going to stay in here. Disclaimer out of the way, I don't give a shit about views this time. I'm not doing this to build a secondary stream of income. I'm doing this because, number one, I see some pretty cool stuff that a lot of people don't. It's just some of the trails I go to just aren't that well documented, or especially when I go off trail. So that's, you know, step one. Step two, this isn't just a hiking channel. This is going to be like, tell stories on the way, you know? Everyone's got stories, but no one writes them down. I suck at writing. I'm not disciplined enough for it. But I can talk into a camera, you know, as long as I need to. So that's kind of what this channel is about, and that's why I'm doing it. If it invaded your feed somehow, cool, welcome. I hope you like it. That's, I guess, all I could say. I will promise you that this is the only time, aside from maybe some ironic use down the line, the only time you'll ever hear the words like and subscribe on this channel, because that's not me, that's not what this is for. This is a place to share my hikes and tell my stories, and if that's your kind of thing, cool. Welcome aboard. So, I want to say I'm about 3/4 of a mile in on this trail, which leaves me about a mile in the hills before the turnaround. There goes that trail. So I'm gonna give my freezing hand a break, and when we loop that corner and get around into the hills, I'll tell you the second story of the day. One of my favorites from hiking in Georgia. Okay, so we are coming around the hill right now and going up into the only part of this that I can reasonably say with a straight face is a hike. That's, one of my criteria for a hike is if it's paved, you're not hiking. If it's a flat gravel trail, you're not hiking. If it's either a challenging gravel trail, like I said, no editing, you might be hiking. This falls into the might be hiking realm because, up and down, a little bit of up and down through the hills. And apologies if you hear the airplanes in the background. I am right between the landing path for the two main runways at Denver International. So, just a fact of life out here. So that story I promised, I think I said Minnesota. And if I didn't, I don't care. I'm telling you the one from Minnesota anyway, because it's one of my favorites. It might be my favorite hiking story. My favorite one that doesn't involve any pain on my part. I'm not a masochist, but there's a really great one in there. So anyway, Minnesota. I lived in Duluth, which is at the base of what they call the Arrowhead. It's the part that, juts east and looks like an arrowhead. Really beautiful area. Duluth is kind of like the very base of it. And it's kind of like the gateway, because if you go south of Duluth, you're into suburbia, heading down towards Minneapolis, St. Paul, 2.5 hours away. And if you go north, you're headed into the wilderness. The main road north is Minnesota Highway 61, and 61 hugs the shore of Lake Superior the whole way. And there's a state park every 15 to 20 miles, almost the whole way from Duluth to Canada. And the state park that we're going to talk about today is literally on the Canadian border. Like, there are Border Patrol and Canadian border guards stationed there because the Pigeon River is not deep and there are plenty of places you can hop across. So there's a trail from the visitor center that goes out to what are called the High Falls. Truth in advertising, that's exactly what they are. They're waterfalls that are about 120 feet high. They really are amazing. It's not the place you'd expect to see a waterfall that big, but that's what's there, and it's amazing. And if you keep going, there's a trail that is significantly less maintained called the Middle Falls Trail, and it goes to the Middle Falls. Again, truth in advertising. I call them the Giardia Falls because there are signs all over the place saying, do not get into the water below the Middle Falls. There are high concentrations of Giardia. Now, those signs have been there for a very long time. So part of me is like, is it really Giardia, or do they just not want you, swimming over to Canada by mistake? Because that's a lot of paperwork. But whatever. I had gone out to the Middle Falls many times. And one time in particular, I used to take a sandwich or whatever out there and hop a couple rocks in at the top of the falls and just, have lunch. There was always a Canadian border guard on the other side in their white pickup. They'd wave, I'd wave. We'd sit there and be aware of each other's presence. But the last time I went out there, I got ballsy. Probably ballsier than I should have, but hey, it's my lunch. I'll eat it where I want. there was a big flat rock about 3/4 of the way across. And I was like, well, I've been told that the river itself is fair game, so yeah, I want to go eat my lunch. So I hop over to that rock and I get to it. And for the first time ever, the border guard opens his door. I'm like, uh-oh. I wave to him, he waves back, says, how's it going? The whole Canadian accent that I can't do, but really friendly guy. I'm like, hey, I'm good. How are you? Oh, great. What you doing over there? Like, eating lunch. Can I not be here? Oh, technically the border's the middle of the river, but we don't care until you get to dry land over here. Like, oh, cool. So, how's your day going? So I'm illegally in Canada, but no one cares, eating my sandwich at the top of a waterfall known for carrying high amounts of giardia. Yeah, you want to talk about weird and strangely fun at the same time? So yeah, it took me maybe 5 minutes to eat my sandwich. We had a pleasant conversation about whatever, the weather, how it was warming up later that year. There were still ice flows in places where there shouldn't have been ice flows. Really nice guy. I finished my sandwich, picked up my bag. I was like, okay, well, have a great day. Stay safe over there. And he goes, oh yeah, don't slip on any of those rocks on your way back. I hop back across. He hops back in his truck. We wave goodbye. That's the end of the story. So is that something of interest to you? Who knows? If it is, cool. If it's not, hey, no harm, no foul. But that's the kind of thing that's going to happen on this channel. I'm going to tell my stories before I forget them and get them documented somewhere that is not my head. Because my head is unreliable, just a fact of life. Your head gets unreliable. And I want to be able to remember these. And if other people enjoy them too, hey, that's cool. So, check out that view. Be great if there wasn't a waste treatment plant down there. I'm pretty sure that's a landfill, but I could be wrong. But yeah, this is when it's not a mud pit or completely washed out or covered in more dog crap than dirt. This is a really nice trail. I do like it. I don't hike it much for those exact reasons, but it is a nice trail. And I'm glad it's here. Okay, I'm freezing cold. I can't feel my hand anymore. I am going to try to go back down to Palmer Lake tomorrow. That is one of my favorite places on earth. But I won't be filming as much of it because Palmer Lake is pretty often busy. It's going to be like 3 degrees Fahrenheit down there tomorrow, so maybe it's not. Oh, hey. Is that a hawk or an eagle? That's some kind of hawk. Probably a red tail. That's something else I want to do with this channel, Learn bird watching, learn rock hounding, I love the outdoors so much. Give myself a reason to go out into them more often instead of, 8 a.m. rolls around and I look around and go, oh, by the time I get down to Palmer Lake, it's going to be overrun with cars, which is probably true. But if I drag my ass out of the house at 6:30, that's not a problem. So anyway, yeah, maybe Palmer Lake tomorrow, maybe just little clips. Maybe it's completely empty because the Broncos are getting ready to play the Patriots. And I can just do this the whole way, but we'll see. I will check back in from the car on the way back. So if you're an aviation geek, it goes without saying that a park directly between the two main runways at Denver is a good place to see a lot of 737s and A320s and, yeah, not much else. However, I lucked out here once. I'm not even an aviation geek. I wasn't here for that. I was just hiking on a day that I had off. And about 1:30 p.m., and as I'm walking the trail, this gigantic freaking sperm whale with 4 engines comes hauling ass over me. That thing was loud. Turns out that the A380, Lufthansa's A380, pops in here around 1 p.m., 1:30 p.m. every weekday. So if you're ever in the area at the exact right time on the exact right days, and you want to see a sperm whale come flying overhead, this is the spot. This is the point at which I realized that it's right around 5. The sun is setting, and I have no idea when they close those gates. I don't see anyone there. I think they're still open. Well, only way to find out. Gates open. Car's still there. I am freaking freezing. Good night.